One night when I was about 10, I was asleep in bed and was woken up by my bedroom door opening, then someone sitting on my bed. I felt the graze on my leg and the bed sink as they sat. Thinking it was my mom having something to tell me, I opened my eyes only to see a pale, eyeless boy who seemed to be my age sitting at the foot of my bed with his legs crossed, staring at me, or facing my direction since he had no eyes. He then reached his hand towards me and he was holding what looked like a little black box. I was freaked out, but as I reached to grab it, he hesitantly pulled back. I reached out further for it and said, "Give it." As I did so, I blinked, and by the time I reopened my eyes, he was gone. The spot of the bed where he was sitting lifted back into place, but the imprint of someone sitting there was still present. I told my mom in the morning and she was slightly freaked, but assured me that I was just dreaming. Fast forward 5 years, I had my girl over to do some homework. After homework, she took a nap while she waited for her parents to pick her up. When they arrived, I tried waking her to let her know. I nudged her and she opened her eyes so suddenly, already looking in the direction of the corner of the room where the walls meet the ceiling. Lifting her finger and pointed, and as fast as she woke, she fell asleep again. I attempted to wake her again. She came to full consciousness and I asked her what the hell was that about, and explained what she just did. "Oh, I thought I was dreaming, but up on the wall I saw a little boy with no eyes just there in a Spider-Man pose staring at me." That's when I freaked out and told her the story for the first time, of when I saw what I guessed was the same child. Fast forward another 5 or so years, still with the same girlfriend, and by this time we had a 2-year-old daughter. We were living in my old bedroom at my parents' house while we tried to save up some money. My daughter would wake up at the same time every night and start talking. For a while we thought it was a normal baby thing until I noticed it was almost the same conversation every night. I playfully asked her one night who she was talking to every night. She responded, "A little boy. He talks to me. He's nice. He's lost and looking for his mommy." I told my mom what had happened the next morning, and before I got to tell her what I thought, she said, "I remember when that happened to you, then your girlfriend. I have no idea what that is." By then, neither my girlfriend or I have seen the little boy after our first encounter, but my daughter continued her nightly conversation until we got our own place later that year. I bought a new house in the small town of Winthrop. The house was cheap, but the most important part was that I needed to get away from the city. A few months ago I had a run-in with a stalker. While I had managed to get him arrested, I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes just constantly watching me. I felt like there were eyes everywhere, at home and on the street. So I decided to move out into the country to somewhere with less people, just for peace of mind. The house itself was big and somewhat old, but otherwise very welcoming. The agent who introduced me to the house had been required to mention that a serial killer had lived there in the past, which was why the house was so cheap. However, he, and later my next-door neighbor Sarah, both told me to pay the thought of no mind. 4 other owners had lived in the house since then, and all of them were happy with it. I loved the house. Its interior furnishings were beautiful and very comfortable. The people of Winthrop were very friendly, often bringing over freshly baked pastries or inviting me over for dinner. Get-togethers, they said, were the key to making sure everyone who lived in Winthrop loved it there. Yet after a week, I stopped loving it. The feeling of someone watching returned, worse than before. I tried to ignore it, but soon as I started losing sleep, giant bags grew under my eyes and I began yawning almost as much as I breathed. Sarah was kind enough to let me stay in her house for a few nights. It was during this time that I heard the legend of Forrest Carter, the serial killer who had lived in my house. While no one knows his exact kill count, Carter, also known as the Winthrop Peacock, was a man with extremely severe case of narcissism. Legend says that he couldn't fall asleep if he didn't feel like he was being watched. He was finally arrested for putting up a scarecrow to watch him during the night. Only it wasn't a scarecrow. Carter had murdered a 17-year-old girl just so her corpse could stare at him. The story gave me shivers, and after I went home, I felt like there were hundreds of pairs of eyes just watching me, no matter how I turned. Today, however, was the first day that I acted out. I was cooking breakfast when I felt the eyes. Instinctively, out of fear, I threw my kitchen knife, which lodged itself into the wall. As I pulled it out, I found myself staring at a pair of eyes, pickling in formaldehyde. I've been watching the police peel away the drywall of my house for hours now. So far, they found 142 pairs of eyes in little glass jars. The scariest thing is, each and every one was staring at me. It's a small memory, a fragment almost entirely hidden in your hazy recollection of past years, of oddly dreamlike days where the imagination ran wild and free, blurring the lines of the so-called reality that you now have as an adult. And your innocence and carefree youth kept you, for the most part, very happy. You were young, in first grade. Late at night, you stumbled from the bathroom and bleary-eyed walked through the familiar dark of your room. That still scared you quite often. You were too tired to be afraid, so you didn't rush as you normally did into the sheets. You walked past the slightly dirty window with a view of a dimly lit street below, and you thought you saw somebody in what was maybe a yellow raincoat walking up the street. This began to happen often. You would wake up with the urge to look out the window, and sometimes you would see him. He indeed wore a yellow jacket, even on the driest of nights. You'd see the strange man walking up the street, in the deadest hour of the night, and even in your young age you knew that was weird. You'd watch him for a few seconds, and every time he'd stop and look around, then turn towards your house, and you'd quickly duck under the covers and not come out until morning. Eventually, though, Mom put up blinds and you stopped looking for the weird man. Days, weeks, months passed. Years went by, rolling like an endless and unstoppable tide. School, friends, hobbies, girls, they all pushed the strange set of memories from your conscious mind. One night in your senior year of college, you were studying late until the wee hours of the night at the library. When you finally packed it in, you headed out and started to walk home to your apartment a few blocks, since gas is so expensive. On a drearily lit street, you get the creepy feeling that someone was watching you. A few times you turned around, but nobody was behind you. Then you felt like it was coming from higher up, and you looked at a slightly dirty window in a strangely familiar house, but there was nobody. You shrugged it off, and as a loud crack of thunder pealed overhead, you gladly threw on your yellow raincoat and continued up the silent street. On our way home from vacation, my 5-year-old daughter and I got stuck in traffic caused by an accident up ahead. My daughter asked why we had stopped, and I told her someone had wrecked. That's when she responded with, "Remember when that happened to me?" I was confused. She'd never been in a car accident. I laughed, thinking she was just playing pretend or something, and asked her what she was talking about. "Don't you remember? We was going to the store, and then we hit something, and then the glass cut me and it hurt so bad, and I was so scared at first. I thought I was dying, but Daddy kept saying I would be okay, and I knew he wouldn't lie. I just stared at her for a minute, not sure what to say. For one thing, the whole thing was crazy. I had never been in an accident, and neither had my daughter. And the other thing was, she didn't have a daddy. I mean, of course she had a father, but he wasn't part of the picture. Never had been. So where was she getting this from? Traffic cleared and we continued on our way home, and it slipped from my mind. A few weeks later, while on the phone with my mom, I remembered it and told her about it. After a pause, my mom told me that when she was just about 3 years old, there had been a car accident and that her older sister, who was 5 at the time, had been killed when a piece of glass from the windshield had somehow slit her throat. It was such a tragedy that for the most part her family tried to pretend it hadn't happened, getting rid of everything that reminded them of her sister and never mentioning it, which is why I never knew about it. My mom said she could barely remember the accident itself since she was so young, but she said she'd never forget her dad crying as he held her sister in his arms and repeated over and over again, "You'll be okay, you'll be okay, you'll be okay." I felt chills run down my spine as I wondered how my daughter could have possibly known that. Get help. You start noticing those words when you're going about your day-to-day business, just flipping through the classifieds or posted on telephones, near bridges, normal places. Just words that seem to be catching your eye. Then they start appearing more randomly. The first 7 tiles you pick in Scrabble, the first spoonful of alphabet soup, even those stupid spams sent by strangers. You even check a few of them, but they all end up being for the same old pills and promises. Now it's getting so everything you read has those words crop up. Closed caption TV shows, book titles, CDs, bus schedules, menus, everywhere. It's distracting, very, very distracting. It's so very hard to concentrate when words squiggle out of the corner of your eye, when the keyboard's no longer QWERTY, but get help, get help, get help, get help. The delusion's taking its toll. Who needs help? Who's sending you this message? Why you? How can you help someone who you don't even know? You're trying to type an email to a friend. It's very hard to do. The letters keep swimming and you add an apology in the email just in case your writing's garbled. You finally hit send. You wake up. You're in the hospital. Your friend is sitting beside you. "I was so worried," he says, "when you sent that email. Get help, get help, get help. Over and over. I came over and found you on the floor. They had to do surgery. Do you know what they found? A second brain. Tiny, but fully formed, growing in your head. It was blocking an artery. You're lucky to be alive. But you aren't really listening to your friend anymore. You're staring at a fire escape diagram near your bed. It doesn't say anything about fire safety at all. Finally, it says, it was getting crowded in there." You lay in your bed quietly. Your window is open, a light breeze flowing through. You stare up at the ceiling, watching time pass by. Why is it so hard to sleep? You silently wonder, tapping your heel impatiently, waiting for oblivion to overcome you. You haven't been able to sleep for ages, and it's been almost 3 days since you got some shut-eye. Laying here, your senses are heightened. The quiet rustling and hooting of the occasional owl ringing in hypersound. Your eyes have fully adjusted to the dark, allowing you to see every detail in the bedroom around you. You suddenly hear a creak, thinking it's just your dog walking around at night. You push your head under your pillow and groan. Another creak, followed by a crash. You jump up, grabbing the gun from your bedside table. "Who the hell is there?" you shout, aiming around the room wildly. There's something out your window. It crawls through the hole, its face white with single black brows and a bloody red smile. Its hair is long, black and matted. It wears a white hoodie smeared with black substance you can only guess to be blood. It rushes in on you, tackling and ramming you into the bed, hissing 4 words into your ear. "Just go to sleep." You look up into the thing's eyes and you push yourself up, staring at it. "Who the hell do you think you are, barging into my room like this?" The thing stares at you. "Wait, what?" You stare at it angrily. "And why the hell did you tell me to go to sleep? I mean, for all you know, I might have been just about to drift off. But no, you had to go and show up." It starts to walk to the window. I'll just be on my way." He dives out the window, running into the night. You plop the gun onto your desk and lay back down on the bed, sighing and speaking aloud. Jesus, people these days. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you'd like to, you can follow me at Twitter. The handle is @FuzzyPantaloons, and I'll see you all next time.